Hey guys, so just wanted to talk about JavaScript variables real quick because it's a super important thing to understand when it comes to actually getting data to move from the front of your workflow to the end of the workflow, or having agents send information between each other, and just really important aspect of automating workflows and creating agents. So we're just going to build out some simple flows and some simple examples just to look at what these variables look like, how they move, and maybe some best practices as to how you can reference things and set things. So we've got a manual trigger here, nothing's going on, and what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a set node to just set some data up front. And what we're going to do is call this. Actually, no, let's leave this as edit fields for now, and I'll show you guys why I'm doing that here in a sec. But anyways, let's say we want one field to be name or Nate. Sorry, we want this to be name, so I can put my name in the next one, which is Nate. And then we're going to add a field called age, and I'm going to throw in my age. So if we test step, on the right, we're going to get two variables. So we have Nate in the field of name, and then we have 22 in the field of age. And so if we click on JSON, we can see how they're coming back. Understanding JSON is pretty much just going to be key value pairs, where the key is a name and the value here is Nate. Same thing with age. So anyways, we'll keep this as schema for now. Actually, schema is the way I usually like to keep it because it just looks very drag and droppable, I guess is a good way to describe it. But anyways, so let's say we've got that, right? We've got name and age coming through, and now we want to push this into a message model node. So we're grabbing message model. Let me choose a model real quick. I don't want to use open router. I got to get rid of all these credentials now that they have a native open router node as well as a native DeepSeek node in n8n with the latest update that dropped today. But anyways, OpenAI, I'm going to grab my GPT-4o mini, and we're just going to do a system message for now. So first thing, because I see a lot of people when they're first starting out with n8n, is they want to reference variables, but they're not changing this to expression. So if it's fixed, the model or the node is going to be looking at whatever you actually type in here. But if it's an expression, you can drag in your variables, and then every single run, it's going to be different. So if this was a form response and people are putting in their name and their age, obviously it's going to be different every time, and the model is going to process it differently rather than just referencing, for example, JSON.name. As you can see, we have that's the variable JSON.name, and it's referencing .name, which is Nate. But if we have this as fixed and we run this, it's not going to see anything but literally JSON.name. So that's the difference there. If it's a variable and it's a JavaScript variable, it's going to be green, kind of gray, undefined, or red, and that's how you know it's going to be an expression. But best practices, you might as well always just get in here and flick everything to an expression, because I don't know why you wouldn't. But anyways, so let's say in here we want to say, please write a biography. No, not a biography. Yeah. Let's just write a short bio for Nate, who is, and then we're going to grab age. So we can drag in age, who is age years old, which on the right side, as you can see, the actual result of this expression is please write a short bio for Nate, who is 22 years old. So we can go ahead and test the step. It's going to give us a content message. Nate is a 22-year-old aspiring entrepreneur with a passion for technology, growing up in a small town, blah, blah, blah. Nate is already known for his creative approach. Okay, interesting. I'm wondering if it's getting some of that from my OpenAI account. But anyways, now let's say we wanted to reference these variables back again. So let's just do another set node. Anyways, so let's say we wanted to set this again to person, but we just want to grab the name of the person from earlier. Now we have an option over here where we can look through these past nodes and be able to drag stuff back in. So if we wanted to just reference for some reason the bio, what we would do is we would be able to drag in the content right here. And once again, this needs to be an expression. Otherwise, when it goes through, it will be nothing. So as you can see, expression, but if we do fixed, it's going to come through just as json.message.content. So there's our expression coming through. But as far as person, what we want to do is we want to grab the name. So coming from here, we have name, and obviously that's going to be Nate. But as you notice, when we're referencing the bio, what we have is json.message.content. And we're getting this because, remember in here, when we go to table view, or let's go to JSON view. So it's referencing the JSON, it's referencing the message, and then within the message in the JSON, we have role, content, or refusal. So in role, we have assistant. In content, we have the actual content we're looking for. And then in refusal, we have null. So if we were to come back into this node and let's get rid of json.message.content. We're going to put in the two curly braces, which means, okay, we're going to be entering some sort of variable. We have some options here, right? JSON is returning the JSON input data to the current node for the current item. So if you reference using JSON, all it's going to do is it's going to grab the most previous node. So that's why it's grabbing stuff from OpenAI. So as you can see here, in JSON on the right, we're getting object, index, message, role, assistant, content, body, all that kind of stuff. So JSON is what we're sort of the node we're referencing. Then we put a dot, we can see what comes next. So we know that we're going to be looking for the object inside this JSON, which is called message. So we click on that. Now we have sort of drilled down our search a little bit. And if we put another period, we can see now, do you want content, refusal, or role? So if we were to click role, this is going to be coming back as assistant, if you remember when we looked at the JSON. But we don't want that. What we want is the actual content of the OpenAI node, which is content. And now we have just drilled down to what we're looking for. Obviously, that's the tough way to do it. The easier way is just to see, oh, okay, over here we want the content or we want the assistant. And that's how that kind of stuff comes back, right? Okay, so that's super cool. But if you notice here, we have the suggested options, but we also have the options to reference earlier nodes. So let's say we wanted to reference the stuff back from the previous node, which is called edit fields. We can grab that, and now we can look inside here. So we're looking inside the item, and now we can see we have the JSON with name, age, or the paired item. And so if we put another dot, we can grab a JSON, and then from there we can grab the age or the name. So let's just go ahead and grab the age here, and we can see it's 22. And that's what we got here was editfields.item.json.name. So that's how that works. But if we were to come in here and change this name to like grab info, okay, I'm going to go with information because I typed an R. So grab information. Now when we come in here, this is no longer being referenced. We can't determine which item to use. It's red because the node got changed to grab information, which as you can see, it's pretty much still referencing all that, but we just need to come in here and do it again. So grab information dot item dot, okay, let's just do it the easy way. So there's name, grab information dot item dot json dot name. And the reason why it's not showing up is because we just have to pretty much run the workflow again. So we'll do that. Now it's going to have access to that information from over here. As you can see, it was red, now it's green. So sometimes when you change stuff, it's going to show up as red, but you're going to have to just rerun it. That happens a lot, actually, if you start to introduce loops into your workflows for some reason. I'm hoping they'll fix this eventually, but the nodes have trouble referencing previous stuff that's been looped, if that makes sense at all. So it's sometimes hard to test workflows each step of the way. If you have a loop, you have to run the entire workflow. But anyways, one thing that's important to know is, so like we're in here and we want for the bio to grab back bio content. And it's going to, if you drag it in, which is the easiest way to do it, it's going to be json.message.content. Let's say though, we forgot that in here, okay, why is that all buggy? Okay, we forgot that in here we needed to do something. So let's just do a filter. And we will just filter, this is equal to, this is coming through as assistant, so let's just say that this is equal to assistant, and we'll filter that through. So there we go. That item is kept. But now in here, okay, actually, that's a terrible example because it works. But anyways, what I was going to say is this was referencing the content from the OpenAI node. And if we were to have put something in here that wasn't a filter, because that was a horrible example, let me just do something else. And this is actually really bugging me. Why is that? Okay, let's do something else. What's something that would actually get rid of the previous item? I guess we'll do a limit. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to refresh this page because I'm not able to click on that plus. So the idea is that if we're later moving things around, if we're always referencing the absolute node, oh my gosh, I don't know why this is still bugging. Okay, I guess that works. If we're always referencing the absolute node, it's not going to matter what order we drag stuff and move stuff around because it's always going to be referenced as OpenAI. And I don't know why I'm having trouble logically right now thinking of an example, but let's just do something else here. let's do a Gmail node. We'll get rid of this guy. And so in here, what we want to do is send an email to gmail.com with the message, and then the content, the subject will just be test. We'll make this a text. Okay. So I think this should be a good example. I don't know why I was having a brain problem earlier. Anyway, so now we can see this was previously coming through as the biography, but it's not, because it's not referencing the immediate, because this is trying to reference the Gmail node, which, as you can see, there's no json.message.content. But before we added this node, this was perfectly referencing the OpenAI. So my point that I was trying to make, that I made pretty poorly, was that if we always set up our nodes to reference, rather than JSON, reference the actual node, so OpenAI.item.json.message.content. So now we're getting the bio back, as you can see. Once this goes through, we're getting the bio back, everything right. And now we can go ahead and add more stuff in between this node that we're referencing and the actual node where we're pulling it. And it won't matter, because we're referencing the absolute node rather than just saying JSON.something for all of our logic. And it's not something that you have to do. It's just it could save you a headache down the line if you're adding in a node in between two things, if you want to manipulate the data a little bit. But that's pretty much JavaScript variables, how they work, how they pass through. Obviously, once you're in here, there's other options you can add, like, hold on, let me make this an expression. This is how you would go in there and give your agent access to the current date and time. So there's now, you can obviously format that a little bit differently if you want to format it like that. This is also how you would, in your tools for an AI agent, you could use the from AI function. So I'm not going to dive into that in this video, but this is how you would do it. Let's say we're adding a tool right here, which would just be, we'll do a Gmail tool again. Because you can make these expressions and then once again reference a expression called from AI, if I can find it, $ from AI. Now we can use this expression to set keys for each of these parameters, and then have AI determine, based on our query, who to send the email to, what the message is going to be, and what the subject is going to be, which is just super, super cool. When I first started using N8N, you basically had to send the data to a different workflow and pass it through an OpenAI node that would figure out who it's to, who it's to, subject, body, and then pass that into a send Gmail node, which wasn't a tool. It was just an actual node. So we would have, where is it? Send a message. So we would have to pass an OpenAI node into this node rather than just being able to hook it up as a tool already. We had to create a whole new workflow as a tool. So this is really cool. The from AI function is really cool. There we go. I rambled a ton. That's going to be it for this video. Hope it helped. Thanks, guys.